Economic Development for the City of Tulsa. And we're glad to welcome you guys to this one of our series that we do. We typically try to do these one a quarter where we do some type of training event related to growing your business. Last month we did, it was last month or October, we did a workshop with the Oklahoma Department of Transportation about being a contractor for ODOT, and this time we're doing one on preparing a winning letter of interest in SOQ. And so we'll just get to that. I can figure out how to advance. Good. Today we have presenting myself, as I mentioned, and Henry, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Sure, I'm Henry Somdesurf. I'm the design engineering manager, and me and my staff handle the administration of capital projects.
Very good. So Henry's going to be talking to us here in just a minute. I did just want to clarify what we're talking about today. We're really looking at letters of interest and statements of qualification that are required for bidding on City of Tulsa contracts. These are professional, the topic is really professional services contracts that require a qualifications-based selection. That's something the state sets up and says that those types of contracts have a certain way that you're going to do selections. And so we do that through this letter of interest statement of qualifications. The type of things that we consider or do contracting for professional services in are typically survey, geotech, architecture, et cetera, that are listed there. And so in preparing this, we really thought about a few different types of groups that might be interested. Whether you're an existing prime that wants to increase your win rate, or if you're a new prime, somebody who's new to working with the City of Tulsa and wants to understand how to get involved in our contracting for professional services, or maybe you're a small business participant who's looking to grow and start doing prime contracts, or whatever else you come to us as. We're excited to have you here and looking forward to talking with everyone today. And I'm going to turn this over to Henry next to really talk about the process of letters of interest and statements of qualifications and how that happens.
Great, thank you. All right, to dive in, if you're not currently on our 2L9280 list, the first step is to obtain the form and submit it to Ms. Angie Toon, and she'll put it in our database, and that's the basis for our mailings for future LOI SOQs. And if you want to verify if you're currently on the list, or you want to verify the validity of your existing information, you can just email Angie and ask her, or you can call her at 918-596-7355, and she can verify the correctness of your information. And on the form in box number 6, there is a space to list contact information for 2 primes. And in that box as well, if you could add 2 email addresses. We're trying to add email addresses as additional contact methods for future LOI SOQ mailouts. So in terms of process, get the information to Angie, she'll put it in the database, and then for all future mailings, whether it's architectural, engineering, landscape architecture, survey, whatever it is, we mail out all these solicitations to all 233 listed firms in the database. What's the next slide? Okay, and basically whenever we send out a letter, there is a brief description of the project, and then below that there's a listing of the characteristics of the project, and then the scoring criteria, which I think Michelle is going to elaborate on in some of the following slides. So in terms of process, we send out the LOI SOQ. The responses are hard copies, and again, I think the following slides have details on that. And once that's submitted, it goes to the 5 PCSSE members. And then if there is an involved department, like if we're designing a fire station, the response packets go to the members from the fire department, and they score the responses as well. And then the scores are combined, and then at a PCSSE meeting, the scores are evaluated. And based upon the scoring, we either do a direct selection, We might ask for additional information from a short list. We might do interviews. So those are the three options. And then whichever it is, the ultimate resolution is the PCSSC makes a recommendation to the mayor for the selection, or if it's a water and sewer project, the recommendation goes to the TMUA board.
Great, Henry. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, really appreciate it. And I have to admit, I can't see the chats as they come in. So Rachel, if you could just be looking at the chats, and if there's something that we need to, address as we go through, feel free to bring that up. I did just want to mention, I have a guy in my office who says he's not an engineer, he's not an architect, he's not a surveyor, he's not anything like that. But he says to me every time we look at a proposal or an LOI SOQ that he can pick the winner simply by looking at the front cover. And I, for a long time, thought he was full of it because that's, him. But that's fine. But it turns out he's actually very accurate about these things. And so I had to kind of ask him, like, what is it about just looking at the front cover that tells you who's going to be the best or the most qualified? So here, I'll ask you guys, which one of these, just based on the cover, do you believe will have the best LOI SOQ once you get done? And
Michelle,
you can open up your phones if you want.
Michelle, real quick, can you hit your slide option so it can kind of enlarge the slides itself for the screen, or the one that looks like the little the fourth icon on the bottom?
Yes, I see that, but when I was doing this earlier, it kept crashing when I did that. So I'm trying to keep it from crashing while I'm doing this.
Got it.
Intentionally, if that's at all possible. Don't ask me, I'm having a computer day. But yeah, willing to get your guys' feedback just based on these covers that are here. These are ones I made up out of nothing, so. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, well, if nobody wants to pipe in with their particular selection here. There's a vote for A. Good for you. It is interesting just looking at, and this is kind of the range of things that we get. The cover is not included in your 10-page limit. You do have 10 pages to respond to the RFP. And some people don't put a cover on, they just put their letter and go from there. Some people put a cover on, but basically my colleague, his theory is that if you have a proposal and you've taken the time to put a cover together that shows pictures and communicates that you actually understand the project, then you'll probably do a good job on the stuff on the inside too. And I tend to think, okay, after we've gone through this a few times, he tends to be right about that. Now, if we were doing a proposal for city streets and your pictures all showed highway cloverleaf intersections, then that would probably be like, they don't really get it. Which is not to say anybody judges a book by its cover, but it really does show the level of effort that you guys have put into the proposal overall when you do put a good cover on it. So leave that there for consideration. I do want to get into the elements of the LOI SOQ, as Henry mentioned. Each of these elements, and they're pretty consistent across every request. So every request letter that goes out, and again, they're in hard copy, they're not emailed, so do be watching your mail. They do come in hard copy, so it's always important to be checking those things, even though we do a lot of stuff online these days. The typical things that are in every request for an LOI SOQ are listed here. The team experience, description of the team member projects with verifiable references, the team organization and resumes, the current City of Tulsa agreements, the percentage of the work to be performed within the Tulsa MSA, what your SBE utilization will be, that's your small business enterprise utilization, and your TUL 9280 form. As I mentioned, the submittal is 10 single-sided pages. It's pretty much every request is going to have the same type of language. It typically will request 15 hard copies to be delivered in one package to engineering services. And typically it's going to go to room S200, which is where the department head sits. But that information will be in the request for the LOI SOQ. The letter itself is typically pretty short. It's 1 or 2 pages tops, but pretty much always with this same information in it. So let's talk about each of these elements and how we can improve our responses this way. So the initial question is always about the team experience, and that gets to how this team has worked together in the past, and not just the team that you have in-house, but also your subcontractors that you're going to be working with. It really wants to get to your capacity and your capabilities. What else can you also do besides the scope of work that's been requested? If something weird comes up or out of the ordinary or unexpected, are there other related services that you can be offering or offer through your subcontractors to help address, those types of contingencies? I will note that the request for letter of interest in SOQ, as you may have noted when I listed out the criteria there, did not have anything about it about your methodology or your approach. It's not asking how are you going to do this or such. But this is a good place for you to demonstrate that you really do understand how to do the project and how to complete the work that's been asked for. So this could be done through doing a deep dive on a similar project and taking this time to explain in depth about a similar project that you've done, especially one that you and your subcontractors have done together would be even better. And kind of get into more details than you might have on the following sections. Typically, this section is worth 20 to 30 points out of the total. Every proposal gets 100 points that are broken down. So this section and the one following make up a lot of the points that are awarded. I will also mention that in the request for LOI SOQ, it'll list out each of those criteria, the team experience, et cetera, resumes, et cetera, and it will assign and indicate in the letter itself how many points are available inside that category or from that category. So the rubric for the evaluation is built into the request letter itself. So do make sure that you take the time to read not just the criteria, but how much those are each worth. Those are typically pretty consistent from request to request, but you do want to just make sure that you haven't missed something there. So the next section that we get to are after the team experience. The next one that we look at is the team member projects with references. Typically, we'll ask for between 3 and 5 projects with references. Again, always make sure that your references know that you're using them for references before you put them in. It's never a good idea it's never fun when people call your reference and they're like, I don't remember that project, or I'm not sure that I want to talk about that. Those are not the responses that you want to get. So even if it's just a short email saying, hey, Jolene, I really liked working with you, wanted to know if you'd be okay if we used you for a reference on this project that we're looking to apply for, and just get a quick email back from them. That's great. But I have seen people who don't get references confirmed, and then it can bite them in the end. So I just want to go over real quickly the types of responses that we see when we do ask for team member projects with references. The best type of project that you can include here are the people that are on your team inside your company, and the same project manager and the same subcontractors have all done this type of project together before. That doesn't always happen, but it is really nice when you can say, this folks and this lead and these subs have all done this exact thing pretty much before with this other municipality or something. You know, and the next kind of layer that we see is that this team at our company has completed this type project with this team, but we've got a new PM this time, or we might have some different subs and that type of thing. And that's okay too. That's a good project. Next would be kind of on the list of best to least preferable would be this project has this internal team, our staff here at our company have completed this project type before. And then another thing that we see is individual team members have completed this project type before, but they weren't working for us at the time. So we've done a good job of recruiting great engineers or architects or surveyors or whatever. But we've never actually done this as a company previously, but these individual team members have done great work at other places. And so you see that kind of going on down. You can see also, we see examples where a company has been a prime before for some type of project, but not with this team or not with this type of project. So that would be more like, we've been a prime and we did a water line before, but we really want to do pumped sewer lines at this time. It would be a different project. And then we've subcontracted on projects before, but not with this team or this type of project. And then really the last of these is we don't have any direct previous experience, but we would really like the opportunity to bid on or to propose on this. So really think about where your projects are at on this continuum. If you can like check all the boxes and find projects that represent things toward the top half of that list, those are going to be better for you in terms of your score than towards the bottom of that list. So do think about if your company has not done this type of work before, are there subcontractors that you could bring in or recruiting that you can do to have this project type in your resume? Or if you really haven't done this type of work before, and we'll talk about this later, are there ways that you can start as a subcontractor on the type of work that you want to be doing and then build up from there? So we'll go on to the next category. So we've covered our project team experience and then our individual projects that we want to use with references. And so I want to talk about this just a little more. Again, the LOI SOQ doesn't ask for methodology or approach, but your project examples and your project or your team experience will use these as an opportunity to demonstrate that you really do know how to do this work and how to make it happen. And so even when you say that we know how to do this work, there are a lot of different ways to say we know how to do this. And so I've included a couple here just as examples. One of them is pretty straightforward. Our engineering company completed a structural analysis of this dam for this city. And that pretty much sets it out there as, you know, we've actually done this before somewhere. But what we're looking for, or what you might want to look for if you're looking to improve your scores on this, is being really specific to explain how that your team completed that work. So here, as an example, we see that our engineering company, our PM, and our project lead have done this type of work, and they use this type of analysis to do this dam, to look at this type of dam. And oh, by the way, this dam is a concrete gravity dam. It's the same thing as you want us to do for your town. This is how we did it. We looked at these primary forces and secondary forces, and we came up with a factor of safety. And these were the impacts to the community about how they were able to, I don't know, get a higher rating and lower insurance values or something like that. But anytime that you can be specific and then also reference the impacts to your customer and how your work benefited them are always going to explain your case much better. So do think about, and I honestly, I've read a lot of these, and we do see those examples where, you know, you do just see people say, we did this for this city, which is fine, but it doesn't really explain that your company really understands how to do the work, how you would do the work, and what the benefits are to us in choosing your firm. So just things to think about there. Okay, so let's look at the next category here. And that is our team organization and resumes. And so when it refers to team organization, it really is the team organization. I've seen a lot of proposals that are like, we are a multinational company based in Sydney, Australia, and this is our president, our VPs, and all of our VPs. And then there's another layer and another layer, and here's North America, and like 6 layers down is, you know, our local project office or something. That's really not what we're looking for. We're really not looking to know if you're a C Corp or an S Corp, or this is your company history and you're founded in 1929. And although that's really neat, unless it's really relevant to the project, you've got 10 single-sided pages to work with, and that really makes it so that you need to make every word count of your proposal. So typically that means you're going to have a project org chart. That's going to be, you know, if you have a project sponsor, if you have a project manager, who your leads are, who's going to be responsible for doing the work, who's going to be your QA person, how do your subcontractors fit into that organization as well. You should also include resumes that should actually be in the text of your proposal or your LOI SOQ, and not like attached as an appendix. Those resumes need to be included in that 10 pages. So these are typically like a 1 paragraph about each person, unless they're like really, really important to your project. You might have a couple of paragraphs about that person. And so I've got a couple of examples here just about using all of the words that you have available to really tell the story of what sets your company and your people apart. You can see here just the first example. Julian Mavis has served as a project lead for similar projects. He has a Bachelor's of Engineering degree from Barkat College and an MS in Structural Engineer from the University of Arkansas. So that provides the basics that, okay, this person at least has the basic information or basic background that we need to do the work. The second example provides a lot more information. Julian Mavis has served as a project lead for dam analysis on seven similar concrete gravity dam projects in the last 5 years. These projects leverage his training in structural engineering, as referenced there, as well as experience conducting forensic post-failure evaluations for FEMA. Now, I just made these up, but they should give you some example of like the way that you can use every word to really bolster the fact that you have the best people to do this job. And this is why you should be selected. And every word is really important when you have a short amount of space to work in. Okay, so let's look at the next topic that's in there. Hold on. The next one we have is current City of Tulsa contracts. And this is pretty straightforward. We just want a listing of current City of Tulsa contracts, both those that are ongoing and those that are in negotiation. It can be helpful to demonstrate your capacity to do the work. If you have a contract that will be expiring soon, let's say your folks have been working on this contract, but hey, it's going to expire in January, and we are really going to be set to take on new work at that point in time, and really look forward to doing this work, continuing this type of work with the City of Tulsa. That's one example of the way that you can kind of phrase that information. Will this also make more of your staff available? You know, if the people reviewing it know that your staff have been working on an existing project 75% of their time, they might think about somebody else who has less work going on and more capacity. So use this to demonstrate not only what you're doing, but that you have experience working with the city of Tulsa, but also that you have the manpower to complete the work and when you're going to have the manpower to complete the work. The next category there is the percentage of work to be performed in the Tulsa MSA. And we'll just remind everybody that MSA is Creek, Mulgee, Osage, Pawnee, Rogers, Tulsa, and Wagner counties. We'll want to just round that up to a whole number. Some people like to put in 2.654%. Just, you know, find a good number and put it in there, and that's really helpful. We really do want to see that, you know, the city of Tulsa, our work is really going to be leveraged to help build Tulsa businesses or our regional businesses even in our MSA. And so this is one of the things that we ask about there. And then we get to our small business utilization. If you're familiar with our small business enterprise program, I've included a link there to the businesses that are enrolled in our SBE program. That's our small business enterprise program. I do want to be clear that our small business program is not a small business administration program. It's different than that. It's a local program. And the link there will provide you information about the participants in that. I think right now we have about 130 different firms who are inside that, that range from people who do a lot of construction to surveyors and everything in between. So really take a good look at that. For specific projects, it's helpful to put the name of the company, their role, and what dollar value that they're estimating that they're going to be doing, and then including a short resume for each company. For on-call contracts, if you're going to be doing a survey contract or a geotech contract or something like that, where it might be done over the next 3 years and you really don't know what you're going to be called on to do yet. Still include the name of the company that you are proposing to be working with, the role that they're going to have there in their resume. So an example here, and I really do see this on a regular basis, that people just put in there, well, SBE program unit participants will be identified as needed. That's not an answer. Really do want to see some specific information here. So if it's an on-call contract, it might be phrased like, based on the project scope, our engineering company will utilize the following SB's participants to reach our 10% contracting goal, and that's what you're going for, at least 10%. So company X is going to do this, company Y is going to do this, company Z is going to do this, and so forth. And then provide a short resume, if you have space for it, for each of these firms, especially if you've done work with them before. So we have worked with Williams Survey on these other 2 City of Tulsa projects before. Or we regularly use Cortex Labs for materials testing, and you know, they have these awards for doing this work. Or this is the ways that they've been recognized. So having that out there really helps demonstrate that you've taken the time to understand these firms, that they are good quality partners, they do really fit with the scope of work that's being proposed, and that you really have a plan to reaching that 10% goal. It's not fun to have to come back on the backside and be like, we're 2 years in and we don't know how we're going to get to that 10% goal. Have a plan ahead of time about how you're going to use small businesses to reach your 10% goal, and then follow through with that. Okay. And then the final thing is the form TUL 9280 that is attached to the LOI SOQ. This is what you submitted initially to get on the list to be considered. We also want a copy of this to be included with your LOI SOQ. It's not part of the 10 pages, it's separate from that. But hopefully you'll have in here projects that are specific to this proposal. So whereas you might have to enter the program, provided a 9280 that is, says these are all of the things that our company can do. And here are all our projects to demonstrate that. You might update that at this point to say, okay, now that we're proposing on this particular project and this particular scope of work, these are the projects that we've done that are relevant to this particular request. So hopefully that makes sense. And then just some tips for getting started, I'll add here. I do get a lot of requests from people who are maybe new to the area, who call and say, we have an office in Kansas City, or we have an office in Wichita, or whatever, and we are interested in doing work in Tulsa. There are a few tips I would give them for just getting started, and I always do. One, get registered, get your Form 9280 in, be registered as a vendor, start getting those requests in the door. And then beyond that, be willing to start small. I think Henry usually tells people that the initial waterline design project, if you're looking to start doing them, is a 2-inch line. And that's sometimes hard for especially larger companies to hear, because they may be doing ginormous projects, but really to make sure that we understand what your capabilities and capacity are, you'll probably start out small on a design project. So that's just something to consider. Another way to get in the door is to be a subcontractor. Even if your company is usually a prime, one of the ways to start developing your resume in Tulsa, or with any client for that matter, is to demonstrate your capability in one area and then grow from that. So use your ability to be a subcontractor, especially if you're in a new environment, a new community, or a new customer that you would like to work for. Same goes for Oklahoma Department of Transportation and others too. If you want to get in, you really need to start as a sub and then work your way up from there to get your foot in the door. Third thing I would say is to go ahead and build relationships. It's hard sometimes to make the decision to award projects to people if you really don't know who they are. So do go ahead and start making relationships with people in public works and engineering services, folks like Henry who oversee design contracts, but also with your subcontractors and SBEs that you want to use. And so you feel comfortable with them when it's time to make those recommendations and use them in your projects. And then another way to get in the door is also to look at projects that reflect your company's truly unique capabilities. And so I'll just say, this is when I was doing engineering work, this is what I would do is we would look for the truly weird projects that there were probably, maybe 3 or 4 people in the US that could do, and go find those. And so for, the city of Tulsa, we initially proposed on doing dam overturning analysis, and that was really a project that we did a long time ago. But I think probably the city is still working with that same group of people to this day, even though it's probably been 10 years. What is it that your company does that really is very unique, and use that to get yourself in the door, whether it's engineering or specialty services or inspections. Do your homework and figure out when those really oddball things are going to be coming out, and then use that to your advantage in preparing your proposal and demonstrating that you really are the only people in this area that can do that work, and get selected there. And so I will conclude there. Really wanted to leave some time here. We did about 30 minutes of presenting, but really I think the goal is to hear from you guys and what you see or what questions that you have about growing your business with City of Tulsa contracts. And so like to be able to open it up at this point in time. And Rachel, if you could take me off of presenter mode, that would be great, because I don't see that button anymore.
Yep, I'll get right on that. Also, for those who joined a few minutes after Michelle started the presentation, this has been recorded So I believe at the end of this week, I will be uploading that to our SBE's website. That is just cityoftulsa.org/SBE, as in Small Business Enterprise. So look for that later this week or Monday. So let me go ahead and get that off for Michelle. I think you should be good to go.
Yeah, I think I took it off. So I'll open it up to questions, or I see Henry, or I saw Paul come in here shortly, just a little while ago. If you guys would like to add anything to that, I'd be glad to hear from you guys.
I would add that in terms of subcontracting opportunities, one of the reasons we do mail out all the LOI SOQs to all 233 firms on the list is if you are a potential sub, then you have awareness of all the opportunities regardless of what the disciplines are. So you can leverage that information as well.
Thanks, Henry. Appreciate it. Very good. Are there any questions out there or comments or thoughts? And if not, I'll assume you guys have got this and you're all on board. Okay, if there are no brave souls who want to speak, then I will just go ahead and we'll close it out and let you guys have some more of your time back this afternoon. But do thank you very much for tuning in today. As Rachel mentioned, we will have this available probably here next week online if you came in late and would like to watch it from the beginning. Or if you have questions about the material that's been presented, feel free to contact us. Henry's there. My email, mbarnett@cityoftulsa.org, and we'd be glad to help you with whatever your questions are. And with that, thank you guys for tuning in, and hopefully we'll have another one of these here next quarter, and be glad to have everyone back with us again.
Thank you guys for joining us. You guys have a great afternoon.
Okay, bye-bye.